So I've removed the screw from here, and now I'm going to use a small screwdriver. It's going to have to be a very small flathead screwdriver, and you're just going to place it on each tab and pry it loose like that. Go all the way across. There are about 4 of them on the bottom. From there you should be able to separate the two pieces. Now the final step in separating these two pieces is that you're going to twist up on the trim and push down on the vent in order to pop them loose. Okay, be careful, you don't want to damage anything, but in essence that's what you'll be doing, because the top piece will still be connected. Now the way that this works, and most likely you'll be disconnecting your vent from your current trim piece, and so what you'll do is you'll first disconnect it from the vent itself. You'll first disconnect this section. You'll first disconnect the top section by prying these tabs loose. So you have 3 tabs on the top. And you'll also pry the bottom tabs to pull that loose. That will leave the bottom frame section in place. And that's a little bit more difficult to remove. You'll want to take your time with that because this plastic is rather fragile, and so you'll use a small, delicate screwdriver and pry it loose from around the surface of the frame. So after loosening the tabs, you'll have this section that's still connected to the trim. And that is more difficult, as I mentioned. You'll want to pry the sections from the top, the bottom, as well as the sides. Be real careful with this tab here because it will break. You don't want to pull on this tab. You'll want to pry it from the corners on this end. After you get it loose, you should be able to lift it out without any problem. Just take your time. You don't want to break this and have to replace the vent itself. Now to replace the vent, you're going to slide the bottom piece into position and then reattach the top piece. Don't force it into position, but make sure everything lines up properly prior to attaching the clips. So we now have the right side vent in place on our new molding trim piece, and notice that I have a long towel, and I highly recommend that you place a long towel in the vicinity of where you're working to prevent any damage from your new trim piece, scratches and chips and so forth. So the last thing you want to do is damage your replacement piece And so this is a good way to try to avoid it. So now I'm going to slide things back into position, make sure they're lined up. I'm going to reattach the center vent piece, and we should be in business. Okay, so I have the trim piece in position, the final position before I complete this process. I've checked to make sure that the cable is not being pinched, the wire cable. My hand tightened the 2 bolts. They don't need to be very tight. You don't want to put pressure on the trim and cause it to crack again. So you just want to hand tighten those. And as you look under into the crease, you can see where the pins are lined up. And that's how you can tell if everything is lined up properly. So you want to look underneath the trim piece. You want to leave just enough space so that you can see that the pins are properly lined up and in position to snap the trim piece into place. Also keep in mind that there's an additional clip on the far right hand side that needs to also be lined up prior to your final adjustment. Next, we're just going to go ahead and push the trim piece back into place, and you'll be good to go.